looking forward to playing bass on stage and impressing the fans with yet another skill of mine.
Let's desolate.
Welcome back. I think that's the thing you're hearing all the time right now.
Thank you. No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a few years since we put out an album, so it's really nice to be, we're in this lovely stage now where you've done all the work and you just get to sort of talk about it and, look forward to playing lots of gigs. Yeah. So it's great to be here.
I think many fans are wondering, what have you guys been up to like the past 4 years?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I mean, we started writing this album together at the beginning of 2020. So we sort of got into the studio in January, and then we, of course, it was a very crazy year last year, so we had to stop working for a few months when the lockdown started, and, then we got back in the studio over the summer and then had to stop again, getting towards Christmas. I mean, we were touring up until pretty late in 2018, and then 2019 we just took the year off, which was really nice. I think we'd done 3 albums without very much time off at all, and I think we just felt like we needed that break, just to kind of like get hungry to do it again, I suppose. And I think, and hopefully that shows itself in the album.
So how did it differ from the other recording sessions, processes of making an album? Because as you mentioned, a year off, that sounds great. What are some things that you thought about or changed you or the way you were going back into the studio?
Firstly, we had our own studio for the first time, which was really nice. We've always kind of like tried to find somewhere to write that feels a bit like home, that sort of takes us back to our days as students in Leeds, sort of writing in each other's bedrooms and practicing in bedrooms and stuff. And so this time we actually found a kind of like a house in London, quite near me, sort of like between Hackney and Islington, where we could write. And then we ended up sort of thinking, actually, do you know what, we could record here too. So we got our producer, Charlie, to move his recording gear in, and we set it up as a studio, and we still have it now. And it was really cool to have our own bass that felt fully ours. We could, put pictures on the walls and, have friends over and work there anytime we wanted. So that was a really, really positive element in recording this album, I think. And I think we felt so comfortable there that I think that's why we ended up writing so much music.
So cool. Please take me to that space. What kind of pictures are there on the wall?
What's nice is that I've been collecting over the years, when we're on tour, particularly in America, actually, you often get made these kind of like one-off limited edition tour posters by local artists. And I always try and collect them, and I go home with a poster tube full of them at the end of tour. But of course, they just tend to stay in the tubes because I don't really want to like decorate my house with Alt J posters. I want to. My wife doesn't want me to. So I had all these like really great kind of like limited edition screen prints of posters from great gigs we've done. And so it was really nice to go and buy loads of frames and put those up. So it's a bit of an Alt J museum, really. But and we've sort of put some of our gold discs up and things like that. So it's nice to finally have a space where it feels appropriate to kind of like show, the history of the band on the wall. It's really nice. Sending videos to friends in
London. So you've mentioned the new single, U&ME. We've been playing it a lot on 3FM. What sort of sound do you guys wanted to create with this track?
Well, it kind of came about through a jam that we did in Soundcheck, this song. It was one of those things where we pretty much wrote the chorus and the kind of hook, and it all just kind of like came together really quickly during a Soundcheck jam. And then we sort of found it had this really laid back kind of like slightly 90s kind of like skatery sound. And we sort of listened to a few things that it reminded me of Eels. So we kind of like listened to some Eels and we're like, what have they done there? And just gave it that kind of lovely kind of Californian relaxed sound. And then that also, of course, was represented in the video too. So it's a bit of a kind of all-in-one package, really.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because you guys all filmed the music video together at a skate park. What was that day like? I heard you guys were not like skaters before.
It was a 2-day shoot. It was really fun, and we had a kind of dedicated skateboarding teacher on hand. Shout out to Rico. And he was really encouraging. And he was like, "Oh, you've got a real you're really good. You've made loads of progress in a couple of days. And he probably says that to everyone, but he definitely made me, I'm going to get a deck and I'm going to do this. And there's loads of great places to skate in London. So who knows? I would like to try it again, but I think it's part of the problem. I think is that skate culture is very averse to helmets and like protective equipment. And I'm very, very pro helmets and protective equipment. So I'm not sure if I'd be accepted as a skater because I'd want to wear every bit of protective equipment going. But it is really fun. And when you do kind of like, I was just like doing quite easy things. I wasn't doing any like tricks or anything. But even when you just learn to kind of like, go down a ramp or something and you don't fall off and you actually, bend your knees and do it properly, like it's a real rush. It's a huge rush.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying because I had my first skateboarding lesson like last week. I was on a skateboard for the first time in like 10 years. I used to do it when I was like 12 or something. My mother was always like, oh, please don't do it. But they held this like a skate session nights for women and queer only in Amsterdam. So there are not, all the cool guys that like rush. And I'm too scared and too shy to go by myself to a skate park and to be in that environment. But I really love everything about skateboarding, actually. So I feel like it felt like coming home.
Oh, great. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, excellent. Well, we can have a 3FM and Alt J kind of joint skating session when we're in Amsterdam.
That's what I wanted to ask. Yeah, that would be so good. Safe space for everyone. We can wear helmets, No one is filming us. That would be great. So to go back to U&ME, it's the first song that we've heard from the new album. Where does it lead to? Because we talked a little bit about going back into the studio for you as a band, and we heard this sound. But what can we expect from the record as itself? Well,
of course, the next song that we're releasing from the album is called Get Better, which is a really different song to U&ME. It's basically an acoustic song. It's a really kind of sad song, I suppose you would say, but I think a super beautiful one too. And it's one that was kind of written during the height of the pandemic. And whilst it's not directly a song about coronavirus, it's a song about illness and about loss. And it makes reference to kind of, the amazing sort of respect and debt of thanks that we all owe frontline workers at the moment. It felt like a song. It felt like a real. It's not often that we write a song that's sort of directly about time and a place or real events in the world. Mm-hmm. Most of us are a lot more live in a world of the imagination, really. But this one felt very like rooted in the here and now. I think we felt like we wanted people to hear it as soon as possible. So that's another side to the album. And then in terms of the rest of the record, I mean, it's everything. It's got everything really. It's got lots of the first track on the album is a pretty long, pretty experimental song with about sort of 4 different sections, all of which could be their own song really. And then there's heavier songs that are going to be great to play live. There's more quieter songs. It's a classical J album in that respect. I think. I hope that people can enjoy it.
Get better, my darling. I hope you will. Get better, my darling. I hope you will get better.
Also read that the album is inspired by true crime podcast. How does that in its inspiration figure into the songs?
I think we've always liked to write songs. We've always dealt with the topic of kind of death in our songs, and quite often, quite kind of like these quite sort of like freaky kind of like stories that Joe makes up in his lyrics to do with death and various ways that people die. And I think so in the last few years, he's really discovered these true crime podcasts. And in a way, it's just for him, he's like a kid in a candy shop. He's just like discovered this immense store of sort of real life stories that, that inspire him. I mean, obviously you have to say that obviously, you're talking about sometimes, these are real people's lives. And it's no laughing matter, but I think it's more the fascination with that side of the human psyche that does these things rather than glorifying in people's deaths. I think it's important to remember that.
What kind of podcast listener are you? What kind of inspiration do you get from podcasts?
I listen to a lot of cricket podcasts.
Really?
I'm not writing songs about cricket. I know the Netherlands plays cricket quite well. They're in the World Cup at the moment.
Shout-outs.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm more of like a comedy podcast kind of guy, I have to say. So, yeah, my podcast listening is a lot more just stuff to put on while I'm doing the washing up or, you know, that kind of thing, going to the supermarket. It's more of an escape than it is a source of inspiration for me.
Hey younger me, hey younger you, meeting at the open time. The beginning of spring, you wore those yellow ripped jeans. Y'all looked to find my 2009.
Is there a song on the album that you're particularly excited to play live? One we should look out for once the album drops?
So there is a song on which I'm playing bass on like 3 songs on the album, I think. I've never played bass before, but something that I've sort of like enjoyed playing around with a bit. And, you know, it's quite a guitar-y album, I would say. Like I think Joe really kind of like rediscovered his love of the guitar during the making of this record. And so in a way it felt like appropriate to use more guitars. And usually I play bass on my keyboard, but I was like, why don't I try on the guitar? So there's a song which I'm excited. I don't know if we've announced the track list of the album or not, actually. So I don't know if I'm supposed to.
So yeah, while I was asking the question, I was like, what are we allowed to do?
Okay, well, let's just say it's track 3 on the album, and it's song about cryptocurrency, and I'm playing some and I'm looking forward to playing bass on stage and impressing the fans with yet another skill of mine.
Amen. That's it. That's the tweet. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Vera On Track.
Met Vera Siemons.